What is up everybody, it's the Samurai7 here, and if you haven't heard, the newest build of Project Zomboid is releasing sometime later this year. It aims to focus on improved crafting, long-term survival, and environmental storytelling, and there are so many new changes and additions that we need to talk about. Today, I've put together a list of the 10 biggest updates coming to Build 42, so hopefully you're not lost when you load in on day one. I can't include everything in this video, or it will be way too long, so if you see something that I miss, feel free to comment down below. Anyway, let's get started with one of the most requested features. Basements and skyscrapers. Once Build 42 releases, you'll now be able to build 32 floors in either direction. This is going to make for some crazy bunker builds and some crazy skyscrapers. Random houses throughout Kentucky will now spawn with specialized bunkers, basements, and panic rooms to spice up the environment. Skyscrapers, however, will be exclusively located in the city of Louisville. Along with the improvements to the cities, new rooftops will be added to ensure a sense of realism when walking through the dense streets. Build 42 is also introducing a bunch of new crafting methods to expand the game, such as pottery, metal forging, stoneworking, brewing, and metal weapon crafting. You'll be able to find and craft these workstations at various tiers, from primitive Stone Age to advanced electrical. They're also adding new construction variants such as clay and stone. A second ago you may have just heard me gloss over metal weapon crafting, and along with that is a complete overhaul to the way melee weapons work. Now the durability is no longer just one bar. The durability of the handle, blade, and head will now be tracked separately. The sharpness will drain the quickest, followed by the handle, then the head. If sharpness reaches a condition of 0, you'll still be able to use it, but the damage will be debuffed dramatically. However, when the handle or head reaches 0, you'll either be left with just a stick to defend yourself with, or the head of the weapon will fly off, leaving you defenseless. You'll still be able to repair the weapons with usual stuff such as duct tape, wood glue, and other things, but you'll also be able to use the new whetstone or grindstone to repair greater damages. The last huge crafting items being added are food preservation structures, so you can now put fur on a drying rack to get leather, or allow your animals to sleep somewhere safe. Yes, that's right, Build 42 is finally giving us our first look at NPCs, in the form of animals. Although we're going to need to wait until Build 43 for human NPCs, so far 7 new creatures are being introduced, like sheep, chickens, cows, deers, rats, and many more. You'll be able to use these animals to gather meat, leather, eggs, and milk. And also you can fence them in to better farm them. These animals aren't going to be given the full advanced AI that they will receive later on, just the basic movement functionalities. Creatures in the wild can also be tracked from their footprints and droppings, allowing for hunting and farming to be a much more viable strategy. Speaking of farming, not only are animals being added, but they are also changing some of the fundamental aspects of gardening. Crops will now have a more realistic time to grow before harvest, and make sure to plant the seeds in the correct season, because they will grow slower or not at all when out of the right season. Snails and slugs are also coming to your garden, but not in a good way. Infestations can start if you're not keeping an eye out, so be sure to keep some of the new commercial slug or snail spray. If you don't have any on hand, you can use chickens to eat them or rosemary plants to keep them away. Along with all of that, houseplants also now need to be watered or they will start to die. Enough talk about all of that, let's talk about the plants that are coming in Build 42. They include corn, peas, garlic, barley, hemp, sunflower, tobacco, and many other herbs and vegetables. If those farming changes don't seem appealing to you, maybe fishing will be your new survival method in the next update. Project Zomboid plans to implement a fishing system similar to Stardew Valley. Fishing will now be accompanied with a little minigame to ensure it's not a boring mechanic. Along with the minigame, a unique random seed will determine where groups of fish will spawn in the waters of Nox, making fishing a little more strategic. The amount of water splashes in an area will determine the amount of fish there, but do not make any loud noises around the water, because the fish will now react and flee for a brief period if startled. Don't worry though, they will come back eventually. And if you've been bored spawning in the same few areas and towns over and over, fear no longer. Build 42 is bringing 3 new towns to Knox County, along with numerous smaller map locations sprawled around. Along with that, a procedurally generated wilderness will now be accessible past the map border, so it's no longer just an empty void when you reach the edge. And you'll be able to create your very own procedurally generated world as well. But this wilderness biome does not include towns, cities, or other buildings, so it's more of a wilderness survival challenge. Another way to challenge yourself when Build 42 comes is to try the reintroduction of the Many Years Later challenge. With sparse loot and a crazy look to the environment, this is a great way to revamp your post-apocalyptic adventure during Build 42. And while you're out exploring the new world when Build 42 comes around, have fun enjoying the many new world objects that give the game some environmental storytelling. Readable flyers, newspapers, book titles, vehicle liveries, and tons, and I mean tons of more are being added. Some other things that give the environment more of a real life feel are the addition of SWAT gear, football gear, and Halloween costumes as well. Great for all of you wanting to dress up. Speaking of this, the headgear you now equip will have an effect on your vision and hearing. Although they say it will be a minor inconvenience, just a heads up so you won't be caught off guard. Speaking of minor inconveniences, if you're finding this video useful, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It's quick to do and really helps out the channel. Plus it's free, so why not? Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's get back into the video. If you're like me and you love the little details in a game that just make it feel more immersive, in Build 42, IndieStone hopes to bring that with more adaptive soundtracks centered around in-game events. So when you're chilling at home, enjoy a more relaxing soundtrack, and when you're out fighting the hordes of the undead, expect the beat to pick up a little. Another immersive feature is the addition of player vocals. So now when you accidentally fat finger Q and alert all of the Zeds nearby, at least you'll be able to hear your character with one of the 4 new male or female voices to choose from. They also added grunts for when you hurtle over objects, along with coughing sounds as well. The new lighting propagation system is being introduced in Build 42 to make the lighting seem more realistic. Lights will now bleed through surfaces such as windows and doors, more how they would in real life. One other thing I want to add before we continue is that the FOV cone for the survivor will be altered ever so slightly. I imagine there will be a switch in the settings to revert to the previous one if you prefer that. If not, just wait for the modding community to get their hands on it. Lastly, big news for all my role players out there because IndieStone has apparently fixed and even improved their Discord integration. In the past, chat rooms and voice calls would not translate in-game, and vice versa, but that will be fixed in Build 42. Along with that, admins can now trigger in-game events directly through Discord using Lua code, and control radio and TV broadcast scripts using multi-line text in Discord, an alternate to the stressful line-by-line that admins used to have to do. And one more bonus feature coming that I think you all should know about, Project Zomboid is altering how aiming works. Instead of missing shots literally inches away at a low level, it will now be more realistic, so hopefully you won't miss easy shots anymore. But be careful with your moodles, because in Build 42, they will have an increased effect on weapon aim. That means the Destabilize perk just became a lot more valuable. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and if there are any tips you think people should know about, put them down below. Also, if you're new to the game like me, check out this video on screen where I went over 15 beginner tips that helped me out when I first started.